Would you like to know how not to be passive aggressive in a relationship? Well, I'm Nicholeen, and I teach all about relationships, self-government, and how to communicate effectively. And in this video, we're going to be talking about passive aggressiveness and what you can do to stop those passive aggressive tendencies from rearing their ugly head. In this video, I'm going to share a true story from my life and about how I've overcome some of my passive-aggressive tendencies. And then I'm going to share with you 3 points that you can use to conquer some of those passive-aggressive moments that you might fall victim to from time to time. When I was a teenager, I mastered the art of being passive-aggressive. I don't know if that's something I should say is really an art or that anyone should want to master. I do know that online and even in movies, being passive-aggressive is portrayed as powerful, as somehow authentic to who you are. But actually, I knew it was a weakness. Even as a teenage child, I knew that every time I was behaving that way, I was disconnecting myself from people again and again. But I didn't know what else to do. And so when I would get frustrated with another person, instead of getting angry, I would bottle things up and I would let snide remarks out of my mouth. And the result for my relationships was actually not good. I wished there was a way to conquer this problem that I was experiencing, but what were my other choices? When I did treatment foster care for youth ages 12 to 18 for multiple years, I learned the names to these steps that I had created in my mind when I was a young person to try to conquer my tendency to say snide remarks, talk back to people, and not handle my communications in healthy ways. And these skills with their names attached to them not only helped the youth I was teaching, but helped me be able to recognize even more how much control I actually had over myself. So I taught myself and the youth that came to my home certain skills. These skills had steps like look at the person, keep a calm face, voice, and body, say okay or ask to disagree appropriately, do tasks immediately, check back, drop the subject, etc., etc. Anyway, there's so many different steps that are in these different skills that we were teaching in our home. And so I started mastering these skills. As you teach another person, you often really hone your own abilities. The things you've been working on somehow even get better when you're trying to set the example for other people, which I was doing at the time. So I raised these foster children with these skills. They made huge differences in their lives. In fact, they were able to graduate to lower levels of care because they learned these skills, which I call the skills of self-government. So I raised my own children with these same skills as well. Well, one day I forgot to use the skills and engaged in a power struggle, and I learned a very valuable lesson about my own weaknesses to be passive-aggressive from my daughter. Probably my most fiery child is Paige, and she is my second oldest child, my oldest daughter, and she definitely is a chip off the old block. Anyway, so she, in her teen years, started experimenting with passive-aggressive tendencies. Definitely with some attitude problem, which is usually one of the hallmark of a passive-aggressive person, but also talking back, things like that. I remember one day that she was having an attitude problem with me, and I was bugged by this attitude problem, which means I wasn't being calm at the time. And so I said to her, Paige, you are having an attitude problem. And she said to me, so are you? And I went, she's right. I'm having an attitude problem. She knows what it looks like because I've taught her about it. She was being passive aggressive and I was being passive aggressive too. And I realized, how in the world am I going to help her unless I find that calmness within myself first that I knew was possible? So I said to her, okay, Paige, you're right. I appreciate you bringing that to my attention, even though it was definitely not probably done in a way that is disagreeing appropriately, which is a skill that we use in our home. But I'm going to take a minute, I'm going to get calm, and then we're going to come back to this conversation. So I went and got calm, and then we had a really productive conversation about communication and about passive aggressiveness and about how each of us obviously have the tendency to go to that and how we need to focus on some key things so that we don't. So what are those key things? Let's talk about those. Before I share these 3 points that are going to help you overcome your passive aggressive tendencies, I would like to invite you to subscribe to the channel. I have videos like this that come out every day, and I'd hate for you to miss something that could be important to you. So you want to overcome some of your passive aggressive tendencies. Who doesn't? Even though we feel maybe powerful in the minute that we do them, we know we are disconnecting ourselves from other people that we love, and that our communications could be more productive, and we could even be better understood if we communicated in more assertive ways instead of passive aggressive ways. So the first of the 3 points that I'd like to share with you is to describe the situation that is happening. You need to be able to describe yourself, your own behaviors. A person cannot fully self-govern themselves or be in control of themselves unless they are willing to do the hard job of analyzing themselves first. So describe to yourself before a moment ever occurs when you have a tendency or a time that you might choose to be passive aggressive, to describe to yourself on paper, this is what I do. This is what I feel like when it happens. You need to find a cue for yourself so that you don't fall into that trap of being passive aggressive again. So what happens to you? Is there a certain thought that comes to your mind? Is there something that you do with your face or with your body or something that makes you feel like I've got to say something, even though I'm going to try my hardest not to go out of control? What is it that happens within inside you? And then when you can narrow that down, then you can start making a plan for the future. We're going to talk about that plan in one of these other points that I'm going to share. But once you've described up front what you do in a situation where you don't handle things correctly and you're being passive aggressive, then you can describe what you should do. Now, if you don't know what you should do, let me help you with that. So the first thing you do is you recognize that you're having that thought or that feeling, and then you challenge it. So you say, wait a minute, I'm having this thought or this feeling like I'm not understood, or however you describe it within yourself, or that I need to tell somebody how I feel, whatever it is that you feel when you're going to be passive aggressive. And then you say to yourself, is this the best way? Is saying it in a passive aggressive way the best way? The answer is no. It's not the best way. So then what you do is you describe which direction you need to go. So on that second sheet of paper, you wrote down what you should do. You should challenge it, and then you should get calm. And hopefully you've got a calmness plan. We're going to be talking about that. And you get yourself to a place where you're thinking clearly, where you're in full front brain. And then you start communicating. Maybe even you have to tell yourself the words you will say before you even say them. You think about how much you care about the other person, and how even though you want to be understood, you know that you want to understand them too. So the thoughts in your mind that you're describing and that you're challenging the ones that lead towards selfishness. You're describing what you need to do to value the other people around you. So that's described. Right in the moment in your head, you say, right now, I am getting passive aggressive. Is this the right way to communicate? No, it's not. I have another plan for myself. I know that I want to do things differently. And then you go to that plan and you start communicating in the way that you've prepared. Point 2 is the calm plan. You do need to make a plan ahead of time. You've got to take that moment to say, what is it that I will say to another person? What are the words going to be? So my calm plan is, number 1, like I mentioned before, I recognize oh, I'm not feeling very good about this right now. I'm feeling like I want to be passive aggressive. So I stop myself, which is part of the plan. I challenge what happens, that comes next. And then I tell myself what I should be doing. And the words that I say in my calm plan to myself first are, am I calm? And if the answer is yes, if I can analyze my body language, my voice tone, and how I'm feeling toward the other person, then I'll proceed. Part of am I calm is also, do I value that person? Do I care about that person? Okay, then I'm going to move forward. Well, when I move forward, what am I going to say? I'm probably going to say something that shows that I value that other person, but definitely explains that I have something to say about the matter. So this type of skill is actually a skill we teach children. It's called disagreeing appropriately. So let's say someone just told me something that I feel like is offensive. I might say to them, just now you told me this statement, which shows me that you want me to understand you in some way. I also would like to share some things that I feel like could be useful for you to understand. So let's make sure that we are fully calm and let's have a really good discussion about this. So I just lay the foundation by saying, I know you have something that you want to tell me and I really want to know what that is. Also, I have something I'm going to tell you. So let's take our next step, which is to make sure we're calm, because if we're not there first, it's going to fail. And so that's my plan. My plan is seek to understand, then to be understood, and make sure that we get to calmness before we do any of it. Point number 3 is to listen. Really listen to what they are saying. In fact, forget your own point for a minute. Lots of times a passive-aggressive person maintains their thoughts in their head very loudly. In fact, every word that somebody else says, they're picking it apart in their brain. If you are not going to be passive-aggressive, you have to let all of that go and really listen to the other person. It's so important. When you really listen to them, then you'll recognize, I don't need to be trying to dominate a conversation. I don't need to be annoyed or frustrated or take this personally. I just need to value that person, value where they're coming from, and then see if we can get on the same page. Now, I know sometimes it's not possible to get on the same page with everybody, but there are steps that you can make in that direction where even if you don't agree in the end, you both highly respect each other because you took the time to really listen, to really understand, to ask questions, see where the other person's coming from, and not just think about your own points that you want to make all the time. I think if there's one trap that a passive-aggressive person does to themselves, it's that they don't take the time usually to look at the entire situation. They get kind of trapped in their own head because passive-aggressive people used to be aggressive before they decided that wasn't a good idea. So then they adopted a pull-back approach, and then sometimes they just get in their own head. So you don't want that to happen to you. So listen, and then the bonding will come that will make it so that you can solve your problems even if you don't always agree in the end. If you've enjoyed this video, I'm pretty sure you'll like the next one, which is how to discipline a strong-willed child. Do you know any of those? I think our world is full of them right now. There are a lot of amazing children out there. So if you maybe happen to know a strong-willed child, or even a friend of yours maybe has a strong-willed child, click on that video now and I think you'll find it helpful.